Non-spoilers first. BW, what was your impression of the film?
Overall, I thought it was okay. Not great, not quite what I was expecting, but not too bad. Without further spoilers, I felt like the overall tone was okay. Uh, the ending was kind of a little disappointment, um, but overall, I think it was about average.
Charles?
I also agree that it was kind of average. Thought the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie really didn't need to be there at all. It didn't fit into the other story. And once that segment was done, anything that happened there was really never mentioned again. I was actually a little disappointed by Kevin Conroy's voice work. I know he's like 61, but he doesn't seem to quite have it anymore. There's a lot of times where his voice just became very nasally, and it was incredibly distracting to me. I was not a fan of the animation style either. There are some segments that involve flashbacks. I liked the animation of that. It was very reminiscent of the 90s Batman animated series. But there's just something weird about the rest of it. It was almost like those motion comics movies where it looks like you just have a bunch of color form dolls and they're just slightly moving their arms around and stuff. I mean, it was more animated than that, but it's what it very much reminded me of.
Interesting. Complete opposite of what he said on my half. I liked it a lot. The only thing I was disappointed in was like the last 5 minutes of the film. The animation I thought fit, except for the way Batman's face looks. The way they drew it is kind of weird to me. But I actually enjoyed the first 15, 20 minutes of the film. I could have been happy just watching that as an entire film on its own. And then when the Killing Joke actually started and you see the first panel, it changed the mood of the film. So I went from really having a good time and being interested in what the story was doing to kind of calming down a little bit and waiting for the big finale of the Killing Joke.
I think kind of, or really when you kind of just look at our overall reviews, I mean, kind of like the mixed reactions. This is kind of like self-explanatory. The fact that we each have bits and pieces of it that we like just kind of like proves the fact that, I mean, it was okay, wasn't great, was it one of the best that we've ever seen? Probably not. I do agree with the fact that, I was a little kind of disappointed in Kevin Conroy's voice work. Expected a little bit more. But obviously at this stage in his career, his voice acting, maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. I know that's kind of blasphemous when he...
I don't know what you guys are talking about. His voice sounded like Kevin Conroy. What are y'all hearing?
There were lots of times where it was Kevin Conroy, but there was also lots of times where it was like he was trying to be Kevin Conroy. I don't know. Again, there was a lot of lines that were just delivered with this. It was very nasally, like he had a cold or was very stopped up or something.
I don't know. I think in this movie, well, I guess now we'll have to get into spoilers. We didn't really actually get to see Kevin Conroy play Bruce Wayne. He was mostly Batman in this movie, so we didn't really get to see the difference that he usually in the tone, the affliction that he had between Bruce Wayne and Batman. This was mostly just Batman, which I don't know if he's actually done that before, where he's actually just played a movie just straight through as Batman. Could be wrong, but I know he's done it in the game series. But in most of the voice work that he's done, he's actually played both Bruce Wayne and Batman. So you didn't really get to see that difference in this movie. And I don't know if that played into it or not, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, this film really wasn't Batman's movie. It was a story about the Joker. It was the Joker's story. And, well, at least for a little while, it was Barbara Gordon's. So I can see him not having a whole lot of Bruce Wayne in there because it really wasn't needed. You see him unmasked for about 20 seconds when he's back in the Batcave.
He's still in character. He's still Batman. He's not necessarily needing to play the character of Bruce Wayne. In the public view, he's still, Bruce Wayne. He has that strict, tone and affliction as opposed to, Bruce Wayne, who's kind of playing it up in a higher sense. So.
Would you have really wanted Bruce Wayne in this film, though?
Well, I just think, not necessarily, but I just think that, to really, I think Kevin Conroy, from the past, for me, it's just that he's a lot better voice actor than what this movie was shown. What this movie displayed as far as his capabilities as a voice actor. I just really didn't think it was highlighted in this film.
It's worth watching. I wouldn't run out and buy it.
Spoilers, like what are some? What's the scene that you felt was the best, and what was the worst?
The best. For me, probably the best scene would be towards the end, Joker's monologue, kicking Batman. I just thought it was an interesting monologue. The worst scenes was every time the movie didn't go far enough. It seemed like they just were hinting at a lot of things, but they pulled back at the last second, and that was very disappointing.
Doug?
I would agree, especially during the flashback scenes. I would have liked to see more of the backstory. Exactly. I mean, we got to see the moment where the Joker's chemically burned, and he's arriving at the point where he's going insane. Looks at himself and just has that moment where he just turns into the Joker. But I don't know. I would have liked to see okay, where did he? And again, I know it's not. I understand they try to derive this movie from the graphic novel, but I would have liked to see more elaboration on that. So exactly how did he get to that point? Where it's. I mean, I understand that. Spoiler alert again. His the backstory of the Joker. His wife dies. He's asked by these gangsters to help them or escort him through this chemical factory to get to what is it like
So like playing card factory.
Playing card factory.
Yeah.
And it goes awry. He gets falls into a vat of chemicals, burns him or bleaches his skin, so it disfigures him. But really, I just would have liked to see just psychologically. I mean, he kind of tells it more in the monologue. Everyone has that point where they just go insane, but I guess it really didn't really show that in the backstory or in the flashback scenes. It just kind of really just showed him getting disfigured and then just looking at himself and just laughing. It really didn't visually show what was going on in his mind.
It didn't really show what's going on in his mind, but the problem with this movie is it expected you to infer so much. I think that was just the point where you had to consider. He had the bad time at his job. And then, of course, as you mentioned, his wife had died, and with his wife, his unborn child died. When he saw himself, that was just the last straw. I think the disconnect there is they showed him crack from behind. You don't get to see him looking at his reflection. You don't get to see his face. He's well into his maniacal laughter before you finally get to see his face. I think that may have what kind of created that disconnect.
Right.
If I remember correctly, that's how the comic was, though, and they were trying very hard to bring the comic straight to the screen. That documentary that they played after the film, it actually just shows a bunch of clips straight from the movie and then comparing them to the actual panels in the comic. And they nailed a lot of them. Like when Barbara Gordon is in bed in the hospital, the only difference between what they did in the movie and the way she looked in the comic was they didn't add the tears running down her eyes, but it looked identical. That scene, it's supposed to leave you kind of wondering, like, why is he laughing? And then that's when you finally get that first look at the Joker bleeding from his eyes and mouth and bleached skin. And
the problem with that, though, is Batman is so much in our popular culture. Everybody, they know what the Joker looks like. I really didn't see the point in hiding it, and then just having this sudden reveal. I mean, we already knew, we'd already seen him in the movie as the Joker, so it's not like it was a secret. And I guess I don't understand why they wouldn't have gone ahead and just shown his face at that moment.
I don't know if I guess this might be one of those instances where like a strict adaptation. I mean, like you said, they tried to go straight from the graphic novel to movie, and I don't know if that kind of hindered it in any way. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think they should have done anything different. I think coming from a fanboy that has been pissed off that they changed so much junk from the comic to the movie, I was finally glad to see like direct, almost traced still images from the movie and the comic. That was something that I've not seen before in any of the movies. So there was nothing for me to complain about as far as how it was translated. I thought it was flawless how they brought it from the comic straight to the screen.
But would you have liked to see more? Just strictly speaking, I mean, just visually. I mean, was there anything that, as far as like storyline?
The only thing that I felt was missing, and since we're in the spoilers, we can go for it. The only thing that I felt was missing was at the very end when Joker tells his joke and Batman starts to finally laugh and he rests his hands on Joker's shoulders. They should have had, as the camera panned down and looked at the puddle of rain, one, the light wasn't there. That was in the comic, and that was part of the symbology of the light just went out. There was a light reflecting in the puddle, and then you see the light just go out. Two, there was no sound effects for it. You just hear Batman laughing by himself. There was no wince from the Joker. I expected to hear a crack or a snap or something like that, like he just broke his neck, and because he even talked about it earlier in the film. Some people actually debate whether or not the Joker dies in The Killing Joke, which I think is dumb because it's called The Killing Joke. Earlier in the film, Batman goes to talk to the Joker inside Arkham. And at that time, he didn't know that he wasn't talking to the Joker, but his conversation is, either I'm going to kill you or you're going to kill me, and this is how it's going to end. To have him say that speech, that one of them has to die, and then having it called The Killing Joke, and having Batman just holding his shoulders and having nothing happen, and having the light go out on the puddle and all that stuff, and to say, no, he didn't kill him, he just arrested him, or whatever. I don't get that logic at all.
I don't know. Based off the way the movie had been suddenly pulling back from anything too bad, I think it could still be inferred that the Joker was killed. Again, the Joker suddenly stops laughing. Batman continues. Or maybe he wasn't. They may have intentionally left that way. Encourage discussion, perhaps.
That would bug me if that's the purpose of why they did that, because it's the killing joke. It's not the guessing joke. It's not the what happened to Joker.
That's true. And that's why I think, the Joker was killed. It's just another one of those moments where they suddenly pulled back.
Speaking of them pulling back, that was the softest rated R I've ever seen in my life.
That was, I mean, just for a film that's rated R, I mean, again, you expect more violence, expect more, just, I guess I don't know how to describe it. Not necessarily more violence, but more action, I guess is what I'm looking for. I don't know how you felt about it.
I felt like this was a PG-13 movie with blood. Because the PG-13, they really don't have a lot of the gore and the blood. There's a little bit of blood in this movie. I really feel like this was an instance where it was almost rated R just to make sure parents knew to not take their little kids to this movie.
And I agree. I felt like, the R rating was a precautionary, just for them, WB to cover their basis. Like, oh, parents, no, this is not necessarily a movie for little kids. I mean, it's animation, but it's not, little kids, but, we'll put an R rating so that way,
Firstly, I still think they should have gone full tilt because that R rating sure didn't stop the little kids from seeing Deadpool.
That is true. That is true.
I thought for this being rated R, not that I was greatly excited and looking forward to it, I just thought it would happen when they started showing Commissioner Gordon stripped nude. I thought maybe there'd be a cartoon junk in the way or something. There was a lot of cussing that was edited, like when the Joker is singing or whatever, and he says, "What the fig?" Fig in a rated R movie, you had full coverage. You could have said anything you wanted. I'd have to go back and look at the panels and see if maybe that's what he actually said, and that's why they stuck with it. but I don't think so.
Even if that's what they said in the panels, I think that further expression would have fit the film a little better.
So again, this is what I was talking about, like a strict adaptation from graphic novel to film. I don't know if that was just something that was hindering it, or this is an R-rated film. It's animation. Maybe they should have taken a little bit more liberties. Something I would have liked to see. I don't know about y'all, but
I was expecting it to be rated R, deep rated R. Coming off the heels of Deadpool, and then right like a month after Deadpool was a success, that's when they announced that The Killing Joke was going to be rated R. So I thought for sure it was going to be way more violent than that, way gorier than that.
Is that they were? In the documentary, you mentioned that this was supposed to be horror movie-esque, and I certainly didn't get that. I felt more like I was watching an early '90s Batman style type animation with just a little bit more violence. Definitely not an actual R, definitely not Deadpool worthy. But again, I don't know what y'all.
To me, it felt more like a detective movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot of thrills in there. There's nothing super creepy going on in the film. It just seems like, especially at the beginning, they set it up to be a detective film. Batman being shown the room and him having to figure out, according to the eyeballs, these guys have been dead for 10, or 3 years. And him trying to piece together, why would they be...
Those bodies in the shipping container, they seemed very well preserved for being in there for 3 years.
Yeah, it didn't really quite explain why they were in the state that they were. Again, I don't know if it was just the way they were, or if there was a specific reason as to why they were in that state, and not more decomposed.
I was guessing that the Joker just put something on their bodies to keep them from rotting. They definitely looked emaciated, like they starved to death. They didn't laugh themselves to death. In the past, the Joker's toxin, whatever you want to call it, it kills people within 5 minutes of being introduced to it. They laugh so hard they suffocate and die. Those bodies look like they starved to death. Their eyeballs are actually in sunken sockets. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what was going on there.
Unless they were supposed to be very rotted, but due to the necessity of needing to point out that this was a Joker kill, there's needing to be enough flash, enough evidence, and it was just because the script said so moment.
Maybe. My favorite scene was also when Batman's getting the shit kicked out of him by the Joker with a frying pan and Joker. I didn't really pay attention to his monologue too much. I was just really caught up in the moment of hearing, Batman's skull getting cracked in and stepped on, and Joker puts his foot on the top of his head and he's stomping him in while he's talking, and so that was definitely the highlight of the film. Made Joker come off way more of a badass than he has been in other films. Before, he seems like a punching dummy. He's just a big buffoon that gets the crap kicked out of him and can't seem to do much to anybody else. But in this film, they actually made him take on a ninja essentially and win.
Well, there's a reason why why the Joker is Batman's nemesis, and he is dangerous. He is violent, and again, that was one of my favorite scenes as well. It really just kind of displayed kind of what was going on in his head, as well as hey, he has the ability to stand up to Batman. He has the ability to even take out Batman. Batman was saying it was either going to be him or the Joker, because even I think in Batman's mind, he's even aware of the fact that, hey, Joker can kill me. He is capable of doing that. So I thought that was kind of neat how that was highlighted in that scene.
I like how the comic. I don't remember that conversation being in the comic, to tell you the truth, but I like that at least in the film that they acknowledge that Batman is willing to kill. And there's this huge debate over, I think it was in the last film, Batman killed all these people and he would never do that. He never kills anybody and he never uses guns. Baloney. The first comics that came out, the first Batman issue ever, He pulled a rope around a dude's throat and attached it to his plane and took off and hung the guy until he was dead. Then he, like, up in the sky, releases the rope and shows his body falling, and he says he's better off this way. He clearly kills people from the very start, and all these people try to say, well, Batman's not the killing type. So in this one, they flat out just have him say, I will kill you at some point.
I kind of feel, I mean, the whole purpose of Batman and the reason he takes on the persona and he's trying to strike fear, and if I feel like, I mean, if a criminal knows that this guy, I mean, no matter what he does, he's not going to kill me, I don't know if that's necessarily going to put fear in, but, I feel like, and I'm not saying that necessarily like Batman has to kill, but he's certainly capable of doing it, and for sure he's done it, and if you're actually going to strike fear into, hardened criminals, then, I mean, I feel like there might be that chance, like, yeah, I'm going to have to kill somebody, for sure. So.
Well, there was one guy, I'm pretty sure definitely died at the carnival. He threw that silver tinfoil masking, covered his mouth and mouth and nose. Guy went down, and I'm pretty sure that guy died. Suffocated.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking that
So,
as he was, like, making his way to the Joker's doll throne, I was thinking in my head, like, does that stuff, like, dehydrate and break off after a minute or so, or what? Because otherwise that guy's dead.
I kind of felt the same way. I was like, well, maybe it dissolves or something. Maybe it's just gonna incapacitate him and then just kind of dissolve away. But I mean, it definitely, if it sticks to his face just like putty, then yeah, the guy just suffocates and dies.
Yeah.
So.
If it did go away after like 20, 30 seconds, it'd still be enough to...
I'd have to be on there for a couple of minutes at least to incapacitate someone, knock them out.
Well, I mean, just having your airways, both of them completely restricted from air, and you're not expecting Batman to throw goo in your face. It's not Spider-Man. So you already being out of breath, taking swings at Batman, and then he stops you from being able to breathe. I can't see a lot of criminals, unless they know that he has that weapon, fighting through it and waiting for it to dissolve or whatever happens with it. So I would think that even just throwing that on your face, you're going to freak out and be trying to get it off.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just like even passing out for something like that, like anything could happen as you're falling over too. So I mean, even if that didn't kill you, like throwing that stuff in your face, I would feel like just falling and even just landing on something, it could be enough to kill you. I mean, a never-ending arsenal of weaponry in that utility belt there. So
I've definitely not ever seen that before. All right, so buy it, rent it, or go do some stand-up. Charles?
Rent it.
I feel the same. Rent it. So.
Barely buy it. I still feel like I want this in my collection. There was enough to it that I enjoyed that I could watch this again in a couple of months. So buy it, for sure. All right, well, that was a Grizzly review. No conversation attached with it, just a straight up review of Batman: The Killing Joke. I'm Boom.
I'm BW.
I'm Charles.
And this is us signing off. Make sure to like and subscribe. Get them numbers up. We'll keep putting cool stuff out. Later.